Councilor Cortez, maybe we can see if you know the Constitution or that. How about the pledge of allegiance?
I think Miss Arnold's such a big but I will.
No, we need to get broke in.
Okay, I mumble, so.
That's fine, just mumble quickly.
I'll mumble quickly.
Be fine.
Give me the tempo you want.
No, that's, I don't carry a tune very well.
Yeah.
Neither do you, so. Welcome, everybody. Just before we start, there is a sheet that will be out front. Anybody who wants to see and go through the methods of getting the audit, it tells you exactly right out front, has a little picture on the front, and it tells you, looks similar like that, has a little picture, it tells you how to get to the state audit. If you want to have that to read at any time, I would encourage any and everybody to read it. I have made it, not just made the staff and everybody else made available at the public library. There are copies of the audit, if you would care to have it there. I had some printed at my own expense, and I would be glad to check those out. If somebody wants one or doesn't feel like they can afford it, they can get them and read them. I think they really need to be read by people in our community so you know what's going on and what has gone on. I would appreciate it if you would read them. Okay, if we could, we'll call this meeting to order, and we'll have Councilman Rubo and Cortez in just a minute, so the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Hildebrand will be absent. Councilor Cortez.
Present.
Councilor Cavan.
Here.
Councilor Halverson.
Here.
Councilor Oropesa.
Here.
Councilor Johnson.
Here.
Councilor Marujo.
Here.
Councilor Corn.
Here.
Councilor Moore is absent, and Councilor Arnold. Here. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Okay. Well, thank everybody for being here. If we could, please, have a prayer by Councilman Marujo and then pledge by Councilman Cortez.
Father God, we come before you and give you all glory and honor. Father God, I ask for protection over our firemen, our policemen, our first responders. Father God, we ask for our leaders in the country, Father God, from the president to governor to our mayor, Father God, protection over them, Father God. We ask for the Juan Oropesa family, Father God, that you give them peace, Father God. We thank you for all you've done in our life. We ask you to give us wisdom in our decisions tonight. Most of all, we give you glory and honor. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. Here we go. All right. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next item we have is for the approval of the agenda. So we have Council Lady Halverson.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda for the March 13th, 2025 regular city council meeting with the following changes. Move item 22 to be heard after item 2.
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, I'd like to add to that change of the agenda to have item 21 removed from the agenda in light of the information that we have received in the last 48 hours with some of the facts and figures that we weren't presented in our public safety meeting where we pushed this to the full city council. I think it's important that we send this to legal and to finance before we vote on creating something that we don't really know anything about. So I will make that motion to remove agenda item 21 from.
Before, if we can do that, we have a motion on the table from Councilman Halverson on approving the agenda. She wanted to move item 22 to move that to item 2.
After item 2.
After item 2, are there any objections to that? Okay, and then you have
Okay, then also, Mr. Mayor, I would like to move the following items to the consent agenda. Number 18, appointments to the ETZ Commission. Number 19, appointments to Keep Roswell Beautiful Board. And number 20, appointments to the Museum Board of Trustees.
If you would like to break them up individually, we can. If not, is there any objection to moving those 3 items to the consent agenda? Is there any objection? I don't have anyone registered on the item wanting to talk about any of these 3 items. There's no one on the paper. So if there is no objection, to be so ordered, those 3 items will also be moved there. And, okay, we have that. Okay, now we have Counselor Cavan. Would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to go ahead and remove agenda item 21 and send it to legal and finance in lieu of the information that we've received in the last 48 hours on the facts and figures of what that's going to cost and look at. And so I think that it really needs to, when we pass this out of public safety, we didn't have any of that information. We sent this to the full council to create something that we don't really know anything until we get these facts and figures 48 hours ago. And so I really think that this needs to go back to legal, excuse me, it never went to legal, go to legal and go to finance and then come back to city council once those things have been determined within those 2 committees. And let me just say real quick, this has been worked on for the last 2 years. And I really appreciate all the work that's been done, everybody in the community. You have a subcommittee that was part of this deal. We've got
Muted.
three city councilors that are a part of that subcommittee. And you guys have done yeoman's work to try and put this deal together. And if it takes 1 more month or 2 more months to do this right and make sure that we cover all the bases and we just don't jump into something that we don't really fully understand as a city council. These are some of the things that we're going to learn as we have our special auditor here that went on in our past administration and stuff. And so we need to make sure that we're doing the right things when it comes to the taxpayer dollars and the liability that we take on as elected officials representing the city of Roswell. And this is for our firefighters, our police officers, and Roswell as a community. So I make a motion to remove agenda item 21 tonight and send it to legal and to finance.
So we have a motion, Counselor Halverson.
So I understand where you're coming from, but as I understand it, this does not commit us to spending money. All it's doing is giving the approval for the city manager to come up with an actual plan. So even though there's amounts here, we're not committing to spending that. All it's doing is just allowing them to move forward with an actual plan, with real amounts, not projected amounts.
To that argument, I would say when you're creating something, you're passing a resolution to create something. And so what you're creating needs to have some facts and figures to it before we vote to create this. So I apologize, but that's my feeling on it. And we had this conversation during public safety, but we didn't have any dollar amounts. And so those dollar amounts, we decided it didn't need to go to finance. And now we have some dollar amounts. And so before we pass something, it needs to go to legal and finance before we commit to this as a city council.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Yes, was that, Counselor Arnold, was that you?
Yes.
Okay. Counselor Arnold, and then who else? Counselor Corn?
So, thank you, sir. I understand, and actually there was quite a bit of confusion even at the public safety meeting because as I was advised by staff it needed to go to finance then. Understanding that is why that budget notes a sample. It's a sample budget. It's actually not an idea, and it says that the staff will need to create a budget, and it was my goal tonight to actually amend, noting that the staff shall create a budget to be presented in May, because these aren't the real numbers. These aren't the final numbers. The final numbers would only be established by the administration. So, and then presented to finance as the real authentic numbers. These are just a sample. And I have been advised by several people that a budget would have been helpful, so that's why it's just a sample. Thank you, and I'll still support moving it, but I prefer, because of time, time is of the essence, and we're trying to keep on schedule. The whole subcommittee has kind of moved it in this direction, but thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next, Councilor Corr.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been following the legislative, been following the legislative session. There's already 3 bills that have been signed by the governor. So they go into effect 4 days, if I recall the rules correctly. Mayor, you might straighten me out if that's not right. And I don't know how this meshes with those new laws. May not be any conflict, I don't know. I haven't read it. I just know that they've been through the process, they're signed by the governor, and if she gets it within 4 days to the end of the legislature, it becomes law within 4 days. Is that your recollection?
I'd have to look at it, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm pretty close. And she signed all that stuff last week, if memory serves me correctly, and so it needs to go to legal, so we can make sure that it all meshes. There's other mental health kind of things and other police stuff that's coming through, and it's all gonna be known here in 10 days, give or take, and then we can sit down and look and see and make sure that when we start out the gate, we're in compliance with state law instead of having to come back and revisit it. Also, looking at this, I just got this sheet of money just a minute ago. I haven't seen it.
It was emailed.
And, okay, maybe it was emailed, but I can't open my documents email. Right? Okay. So I see opioid funds on here several times. We don't have the opioid funds. Let's get that to the county commission. And you're starting a program that's going to have a life to it, hopefully a long life if it works. And you got to have recurrent money. And I don't know, I would depend on the opioid money as what I consider long-term, 10 years or more, to fund these things. And also I saw on here, I think, the use of the public safety tax. You know, we need to have a real discussion about that. If we're going to fund our own ambulance service, we need to get that done first, because that's a big capital outlay for the equipment and the ambulances and all the stuff that goes in the back. Those ambulances plus, I don't know, I don't say the chief went offhand, but you'll need at least another 30, possibly 36 personnel to run those units, depending on how many we decide to buy. We buy 6 and just take over the system, and we'll have to, if many of us will remember when we were discussing this, when we were kind of in a bind, there was a need to do some remodeling at some fire stations to house the ambulance unit, and also the additional personnel. They need maybe some more bed space, they need some more shower room, whatever. For those guys, I assume these will run the same shift as the firemen and they're on 36-hour shifts. So I just think we need to slow this process down. Need to get it legal, make sure it coincides with many state laws that the legislature is looking at. Some of them are already signed, so they're already going to be law. I haven't looked at them, so I don't know if there's any conflict there or not. So I think that this needs to go back to our normal process, not short circuit, not get people involved in something that we don't have a clear picture of what it is we're really trying to do. And, you know, I appreciate there's been a lot of work going on with this thing, but, you know, if you pass something that really gets you in a wreck, then you've really wasted that time. So take a little more time now, get it as correct as you can, and then fine tune it down the road. So I think moving it to legal and on to finance, and we can figure out this stuff. And we need all that other work done anyway before we get there. So somebody's gonna have to argue this thing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Councilman or President?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, let me say that I will second the motion.
Okay.
And second of all, you know, if this is a simple budget, that to me means that these are not the figures that we will be working with. So, you know, I would rather see more concrete numbers that will be the numbers that we will be working with instead of just a sample. And so I think it is a good idea to send it back to legal and then to finance. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Erie, anyone else for the first time? Councilor Arnold?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to reiterate to the council that this is only a directive to the city administration to create the legal verbiage, to create the fiscal plan, to actually, it's only, and you will have another opportunity to vote on what is created by the administration. That is the whole point, because we do not actually oversee the administration. If we want to get something presented to them to create or set up to work with all the entities, the subcommittee didn't have all the complete knowledge to create what is actually required of solid policy, and therefore that is why the decision was made by the full subcommittee to present this as a resolution, giving the city administration direction on looking into the legal verbiage, on looking into the fiscal aspects of what this would require, on working with the chief of the fire department, the chief of police. Both departments actually were the ones that set up the tours on this. We have professionals who this is who they see as a good solution. So while I understand the gentleman's push here, it's actually not warranted, because the city administration will provide all that information and send it to legal and send it to finance and then again before the city council. This is just a directive. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question from looking at the list of a lot of fine people that are on this subcommittee. But I'm just curious, what is this a subcommittee of? What is the umbrella committee that this list of people is the subcommittee of?
Public safety is,
Is this a subcommittee of public safety?
Public safety actually voted in September to create a subcommittee to create something to present or to request directive on. We were just creating like this small narrative of what it should look like. There were, I think, 6 meetings by this subcommittee created by public safety. And therefore, so we met sometimes twice a month to once a month, even through Christmas time. And the goal was just to have it presented in February. The majority of this work was done by a good group of people that the public safety oversaw. And these meetings and this discussion, all of the meetings were, the information was presented monthly at the public safety meeting.
And I apologize for asking that question because I just got on the Public Safety Committee and I came from infrastructure after we added the illustrious Chris Cortez to the city council. We did a little shake up there, so I was not aware of creating subcommittees, but it really is kind of well, I'll leave that for further discussion at another time. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments? So we have a motion and a second. I would, before we send this under with direction from the council, there is a little problem to me if we have three members of the same committee obligating or spending the time necessarily of the city manager to come up with all these plans and everything else, because it's a minority number of the city council. There's three, and so I have some concerns about that we have three people all from one committee, and they're gonna spend all the time on that, when it takes five or six of the elected officials to obligate our city manager to do something. So to me, I have some concern about that it might be, I don't know if that's an appropriate thing to do at this time, because I think we have the whole referring that to anytime we start spending money and legal stuff, I think those all have to go through the committee. It has to go through legal and finance, in my opinion, no matter what. And before we spend anything or whatever, because I think these are areas that are very, where you can spend a lot of money, you can obligate a lot, and we also have to figure out what are we going to do with people that have issues and where we're going to put those people with issues. We have, and that's one of the things I think they're trying to address in the legislature. You put anybody in there, juveniles, or you can put anybody in there, they get into the facility and they might be there overnight and be gone and be back out on the street the next day before the policeman gets there almost. I know we had some issues with, some people that did some damage to vehicles in, to an ATM at our bank. And it's very difficult because they're out, back out among us, it seems like extremely quickly, without regards to that. So I think we have to have somewhere legal and finance need to do it. If we find somebody, identify them with a problem, we have to know where we're gonna take them. And so all this stuff needs to be put together through legal and finance, find out where they go, and then we're gonna have to work with the county and everything else. We can't keep taking every issue that we have without having a plan on where to put them, regardless. And that's kind of why I think things should go through the appropriate committees and that we have here. To me, it's a little bit of a conflict when you have all three people from one committee and the other, there's no one else on the council that has seen that. So you need to get to obligate the time of the city manager. I would think we probably want to have at least a majority of the council to do that. So, is there any further discussion? We do have 4 individuals on this item that wanted to talk. Would the council rather vote, or would you rather have any publication now? Although this is a non-binding, I guess, I don't know if it'd be, in regular committees they have the ability to present their views. I don't know in here when we're doing a thing about referring them to the actual committees where the decisions would be made. That would be something. Does anyone
Mr. Mayor?
Do we need, yes,
I mean, if we've got people signed up for this item and we move it off, then we're done. So I think we need to vote on it. Do our normal hearing process, if that's what the city council elects to do here in a minute. If it doesn't get pulled off the agenda, then we'll deal with it when we get to it.
okay. Okay, well, that's fine, if that's, okay, we have a motion to remove item 21 and, to be moved to the legal and then thence to the finance committees. On a motion by Councilor Cavan, seconded by Councilor Oropesa. If the clerk would call the roll.
Counselor Cortez,
Aye.
Counselor Cavan,
Yes.
Counselor Halverson,
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Marujo,
Yes.
Counselor Corn,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold.
No.
Okay, by a vote of 7 in the affirmative and 1 in the negative, the item will be referred to the legal committee, thence to the finance committee. Okay, that's all there. Okay, next we'll go to item number 2 is approval of the consent agenda. If the,
We already know.
we,
Mr. Mayor, you have to vote on the agenda.
excuse me, okay. Okay, so next we're back to item 1, voting on the approval of the agenda. The city, has voted on a motion by, Councilor Halverson, seconded by, I didn't mark that down.
Yeah.
We need, okay.
You don't need a second on this. So,
Okay, we don't have a second sheet. All right, if the clerk would call the roll for the approval, is, you want a voice vote? No, gotta have 6. Okay, a motion to approve the agenda as amended, sorry.
Mr. Mayor, who has a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Cavan. Yeah, on a motion by Councilor Halverson, second by Councilor Cavan. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Cortez,
Aye.
Counselor Cavan,
Yes.
Counselor Halverson,
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa,
yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Marujo,
Yes.
Counselor Corn,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold.
No.
By a vote of 7 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, the agenda has been approved. Okay, next we have is the consent, approval of the consent agenda. This number 22 was approval of the consent agenda, item 2.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda for the March 13, 2025 regular city council meeting as amended.
Second.
Okay, the councilor, I have a motion to approve the agenda by Councilor Lady Halverson, seconded by Councilor Johnson. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor? No, we need to have a majority again, so roll, clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Cortez,
Aye.
Counselor Cavan,
Yes.
Counselor Halverson,
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa,
Yes.
Counselor Johnson,
Yes.
Counselor Marujo,
Yes.
Counselor Corn,
Yes.
Counselor Arnold.
No.
By a vote of 7 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, the agenda's been approved. Next, we have moved item 22 to be heard after item 2. So if we go to item 22, I wonder what that could be.
Consent has to be.
A resolution,
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
sorry to be the guy. Consent has to be unanimous. If not, all items have to be voted on in order.
In order, well, we have, we had already moved this item number,
So yeah, the next item continues, but all consent items were not consented to.
okay, so,
So item number 2A would be the state auditor, and then all consent items have to be heard one by one now.
okay. Okay, if we could, we'll go to item 22, the state auditor. Okay. I'll make this a little longer than that. Oh, here's our own book. Okay,
Good evening, Mayor Jennings, members of the council. So as you know, we have the Honorable State Auditor, Maestas, here with us tonight. We have Audrey Jaramillo online, who prepared this special audit over the last 2 years' time. Mr. Mayor, you may want to start off with just a brief on how the city got to its special audit, and then we would go into the presentation of the special audit by Audrey Jaramillo, our independent public accountant, and then I think the state auditor is here to wrap us up with a summary of where we're at with this audit and how we got here.
okay. Thank you. Well, how we got here was, I believe, when we got into office and some of us looked around, we saw some of the things that, the expenditures that have been made. There was a great deal of questions as to whether or not those expenditures were in compliance with the laws of the state of New Mexico. And a number of us, I met with other councilmen and we went to the state auditor and we requested that we have an audit of the city of Roswell for a number of years, about where we were to see where we were, how the money was being spent and if it was being spent appropriately and in accordance with the laws and the statutes of the state of New Mexico. And at that point, I think it would be the determination there that we wanted to make sure that everything was, all the monies were spent legally and appropriate and according to the law. We didn't have any violations of the law. And that's what we had, and the state auditor agreed to have appoint a special auditor, and we got, this is how we got here. And I think anybody who, like to remind you, there is a thing on the back so you can find and read the audit if you choose. But this is a presentation. We have met with the state auditor last week, last meeting we met with them, and we weren't allowed to publish anything that was out there until it was officially released by the state auditor. So that has been done, and I think he would like, we asked him to come and express to us and the citizens of Roswell in open session what he found and where we stand today and what we need to do or any actions that need to be corrected. And tell us what he found so we know how to do it right.
Yes, sir. Wonderful summary of how we got here. I'll just chime in with my 2 cents on this. This happened or occurred before I came on with the city, but there was a lot of things rolling around out there that were pretty unbelievable in terms of what we were hearing and eventually what was documented in this special audit. This special audit does cover the period of 2017 through 2022. And so that was the time frame for the activities that are well documented within this audit. You're going to see 27 different audit findings. From my perspective as your city manager and former finance person, what I see in there is a lot of what is called management override. And management override is a really tough audit finding because it's very difficult to cure. unless you cure the management. And I'll just tell you from my perspective as your city manager, that is something we've been working on the cure for the past 2 years and changing the culture. And I'll also say this, it's very easy to take the culture to a direction where management override can occur consistently and frequently. It's very difficult to change that culture in the opposite direction, but that's what we've been working on. I believe we've turned the corner as a city. We have resolved these findings, and we look forward to not repeating these findings as a city of Roswell.
Thank you, Mr. Meisters.
Welcome to Roswell again, and thank you for your work. And appreciate you coming back for the citizens, so you know exactly what we found.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, and staff. My name is Joe Maestas. I'm the state auditor. It's exactly 1 month, but I was here last to sit in on the exit conference for this special audit. And as your city manager said, I think you've done more than turn the corner. I think this is an important milestone in your efforts, specifically, Mayor, to get to the bottom of things. And the designation by the Office of the State Auditor for this special audit happened in the final month before I took the oath. And I think this illustrates the role of my office. We don't just conduct annual financial audits of all public entities. I'm authorized to conduct audits in part of financial affairs of every single public entity. And that's what this is. This is an audit in part in the form of a special audit, but there were troubling indications through a prior audit and also through anonymous complaints that we handle through our Special Investigations Division. And I have my director with me here, Mr. Sean Beck. Sean, raise your hand. And so I think, like, as a former mayor, I took over a city that was 3 fiscal years behind on its audit. And so I felt that same desire, Mayor Jennings, to get to the bottom of it. And so it becomes a slog. It's been a long while since this special audit designation occurred. But in looking at the breadth and the scope and the extent of the audit findings, I'd say this is pretty much a major reset for this administration. And I know it's taken a while to complete the special audit, but I think what the citizens of Roswell can take comfort in is that many of those findings have been addressed already. And so I have to commend your effort, Mr. Mayor, members of the governing body, in order to uphold internal controls and maintain accountability and transparency in a public entity. You have to have the tone at the top, coming from the very top. And I think you have established that. And so I think the future looks bright for the city of Roswell's financial management. And I'm here personally to recognize the city of Roswell and say, job well done. And you know, it's one thing to achieve compliance and it's another to sustain it. And so that's the challenge going forward. But based on what I heard and what I saw in the exit conference, there is a consensus to want to move forward in an accountable and transparent manner, and I think that's a good thing. And so thank you for the opportunity to briefly address you. I offer my assistance going forward. We have a cadre of fraud examiners that works under Sean Beck, and you know, even today we have over 300 active fraud, waste, and abuse cases, and it was some of those complaints plus a prior audit that really led to this designation. So I again want to reiterate and congratulate you all, and I think this is an important milestone for the city of Roswell. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, do you have any questions for me?
Members, does anyone have any questions of the state auditor? No, thank you very much, and I really appreciate you coming after, because there were a great deal of issues, and things were promised to people. It was like $10,000 for every water meter. And we obviously cannot do under the law. And I don't know where we get here, if there's anything that rises to the level that there should be charges made. I would wonder about that, if there are any, I mean, when you don't have documents for a missing account with a significant amount of money, is that funny business, or is that just poor bookkeeping? Where are we? And I don't know how you determine, or who determines that. So somewhere I hope that if you have anything that rises to that level, that you can certainly let us know. I'm not an accountant or a CPA, but I believe government has to work and it has to be honest. And we have got to have that, to have the integrity of maintaining the offices that we have here. And it was just strange. Like one day you changed nepotism, and then it was okay. And you know, I don't remember seeing any notice. There was monies that were spent, and the council never knew what was going on. And when you have significant amounts of money spent, and then to have rent only a pittance for what you spent to do. Things like that make me wonder what really was going on. And I don't know what rises to what level, and you all, professionals, are gonna have to give us an idea about where to go. What if there's something in here that needs to be addressed, you know, by a district attorney or whoever, the attorney general or somebody, we need to get that kind of level up there to help. So I would appreciate any work you can look at in that. We had some time card things that were wrong, and we took action on it, and it's difficult to find anybody to prosecute it. And so, you know, it makes you discouraged that you brought something to light that was bad, and then find out that it dies right there because nobody will do anything. None of the people will do things, and so.
Well, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, if I may respond, I just wanted to also announce that there is a state statute, it's 1266, that requires anyone that has any knowledge of potential fraud, waste, and abuse, they're required to contact my office. And whenever we take on a fraud, waste, and abuse case, we do protect the identity of the whistleblowers. And if it is a case that's ripe for a referral, we typically will refer it either to the Attorney General or to the state police. But as you said, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I think maybe the top referral, or the most common referral, is we refer it to the district attorney in that locale. But you hit the nail on the head, Mayor. Prosecuting white-collar crime is really not a priority when you think about, you know, homicides and things like that. And my hope as state auditor is that we can instill hope in whistleblowers, and knowing that not only did they come forward while being extremely, you know, apprehensive, to know that their case is going to be examined and it's going to end in a prosecution. And that is the problem, Mayor, is that these cases often don't see the light of day when it comes to prosecution, unless it's a very high-profile case or involves a high-profile elected official. The only other new referral that we've been doing, and we've had probably about, 15 referrals since the advent or creation of the State Ethics Commission. And so oftentimes during the course of our examinations, we find Governmental Conduct Act violations on the part of elected officials and appointed and other employees. So my office, the phone is always ringing when it comes to, unfortunately, intake of anonymous fraud, waste, and abuse complaints. My office door is always open, and Mayor, we can possibly look at some of these potential criminal-related findings and see if we can't make a referral to the district attorney. I think our case is already closed that involves some of the early complaints that predated the designation of the special audit, but that's not something that's out of the question, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anything else with that you all want to bring up, or is that concluded? Or do we have a film or?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I believe the auditor is going to present the findings, but she is going to do that remotely.
Oh, okay.
Is that true?
That is correct.
Okay.
And just for your information too, is we don't have the resources to conduct all these audits of some 1,200 entities across the state, public entities, so we authorize independent public accounting firms like Jaramillo Group that did this special audit. So FYI, we've got about 45 independent public accounting firms that we've approved. Thank you, Mayor. So I guess I'll turn it over to Audrey Jaramillo.
All right, good evening, Mayor, Council, Manager, Auditor Maestas. You all can hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Good to be here. We're pleased to present the report this evening. I will make it brief because I believe the Mayor, Council, Manager, everyone, Attorney, you all have seen the draft and have had the opportunity to ask questions and have gone through the management responses, etc. So I'll keep it short tonight and not dive into the details too much. I did want to start off, did Mr. Beck have a chance to get you the paper copy? Do you have the bound
Yes.
paper copies?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Because I understand I can't share my screen, but let's start off on just the table of contents, and you can see just the structure of the report here at 30,000 foot view. We have our consulting procedures report that has a lot of standard language in it. It discusses how we are not performing an audit per se, but more of an investigation or examination. So we do not give an opinion on the procedures or the financial statements as a regular external audit would do. We are also limited to the information that's provided to us by the city, and so our conclusions may have been different depending on what is provided to us. We did go through many interviews, documents, emails, and really took our time in giving the city the opportunity to provide as much as possible to clear as many exceptions, if you will, or findings as they could. And then at a certain point, we had to just, kind of say, stop, we need to just move forward. It's been a while. And so you'll see in the findings that there were a lot of documents that the city was not able to provide. But all of that just to say that we based our conclusions on the information that we had. So there is an executive summary and then details about definitions, areas of risk that we tested, the detailed procedures that we did, and the corrective actions to date. Also the exit conference, and then a lot of exhibits in the back. So we put the city org charts over the period of time just for reference. And then also an exhibit on the Air Center rents and the testing that was done there. The testing on the lease holdovers, procurement documents that were tested, a debt listing, and the long schedule of findings and management responses. most of which I believe have been addressed by management, which was stated earlier. And I also commend the city and management for being very responsive, great to work with, just willing to take a look at things, willing to self-report things. And my respect level for that was heightened because not every client, not every government in New Mexico is willing to just, kind of open the Pandora's box and say, okay, we have to, or open the wound or whatever it is, and say, okay, we're going to have to clean this out. We're going to have to deal with it. And then what's the roadmap for moving forward? And hopefully this report really gives the city that roadmap for moving forward. So it was very intense, very deep look at things, very broad scope, but I think well worth the time that we all took to work together to be able to have those corrective actions in place. And it is hard. Turnover happens, especially these days, and so you'll see a lot of the findings in there are reflective of what a lot of other governments are facing at this time as well, just with staffing, turnover, a different way of doing things, different work ethic, all of those things kind of come into the picture. Then at the end there's the city's operational procedures and policies, and then a purchasing guide. And then I just want to jump to page 3 of the report itself and point out the definitions that are there. And so I know there's a lot of attention right now at the federal level and the state level as well. But people are very aware of, governments really need to be keeping an eye on fraud, waste, abuse, misappropriation of assets, things like that, because waste isn't just it isn't always fraud. It can be the act of using or expending resources carelessly, extravagantly, to no purpose. And so it also can relate to mismanagement, inappropriate actions, and inadequate oversight. And so wasteful spending, has a little bit different definition from actual fraud or abuse. And then with abuse, I think of it more as the behavior aspect, and possibly people using their position for some kind of gain that they really shouldn't use the position for. And so I just wanted to point out these definitions. And with that, we can skip down to the chart of the findings. And this is the list of findings in Exhibit 6 on page 68 of the report. And these are the 27 findings that were referenced earlier. And these findings do get added into the external audit as well, and then tracked each year to ensure that the city has fully cleared these findings and taken the corrective action. So you'll see them in the external audit, but then they will clear out in subsequent years as they are taken care of. So first off, we have the Governmental Conduct Act violations. And this, I would say, just in general, goes back to conflicts of interest, using your position for personal gain or family gain, perhaps, or really just, employees need to know the Governmental Conduct Act. There needs to be internal controls over the Governmental Conduct Act and checks and balances within the city to identify anything that could be occurring. But I just have encouraged with all of our clients, the boards, and the employees, just try to avoid any situations that even could be questioned, right? Just an appearance of a conflict of interest sometimes creates distrust in government. And so keeping your public service hat and your private interests completely separate it just is something to keep in mind, to always try to do that and keep that delineation there. The next finding relates to the anti-donation clause of the state constitution of New Mexico, and there are a lot of details in these findings, but I'm just giving you, the brief overview. For this, I always think of it as there has to be something in exchange to governments, and so governments are not allowed to benefit a private individual or even an entity like a nonprofit. So government cannot spend taxpayer funds on benefits to individuals or individual entities. There always has to be some exchange of benefit. So if the city is paying something out or providing something, they need to get something in return for that and some value in return. And that's why, LEDA agreements are very common, because there are, tax abatements and things like that, things provided to an entity, but there's an incentive and something coming back to the city, jobs, economic development, whatever it is. So that's just one example. But anti-donation, you just always have to think of it as never giving something away for free, essentially. And so the next findings relate to procurement violations, findings 3 through 8. And there are lists of missing documentation. There were some violations at the air center for emergencies, such as the rail line, a violation for an entertainment vendor, and violations on late vendor payments, because vendors are supposed to be paid within 30 days, according to the procurement code. And then the request for proposal wording. This one relates to the Ascent project and the contract that was going to the EDC. And that is something that is very common to accomplish economic projects. I'm sorry, what? Can you hear me still?
No question. Yes, we heard you, or we can hear somebody coughed.
Oh, okay, sorry. It came through much different than that. Okay, thank you. So the request for proposal wording on that was not changed from when the city was seeking a contractor itself to then changing avenues because of the shortage of funding and increasing outrageous inflation. And then going through the EDC, the wording of that proposal should have been changed and was not. And so that's what that finding relates to. 2023-009 relates to the city's responsibility to do risk assessment procedures and follow what's called COSO. And I won't go into that. It's good bedtime reading though. So the city does have to monitor risks, do controls and response, mitigate them, identify them, monitor them throughout the year. Internal audit function not established. We believe and recommend this to all of our special audit clients. A lot of these things could have been either identified or handled much, much sooner had there been an internal audit function. The internal audit function reports administratively to the city manager, but functionally to the governing body. And if there's an audit committee, they would report to the audit committee. But if not, then to council, to mayor council. So we definitely recommend establishing an internal audit function. Internal auditors more than pay for themselves is what we have seen. There were some purchase order violations on small purchases. Basically, purchase orders were probably created after the commitment was made or even the payment was made for the item, which is a violation, of course, of budget and policies as well. There were a lot of inconsistencies with the CPO position and registration with the General Services Department. Let's see here. We also identified a violation in debt covenant. I believe it was a shortage in pledged revenues of about $844,000. That was just a little short, so there was a debt covenant violation. Then we did see some findings here relating to the RAC. We saw that the records were not always there. So of course IPRA you couldn't be in compliance with IPRA when they were requested. Documents were very, very difficult to find, so they were not retained. And so the accounting and contractual records were not as they should be. And of course, we know that it's not just up to the individuals in each department to maintain them, but it's also up to the records custodian, and it's also up to IT to be backing up all of those records as well. And then we have, I talked already a little bit about the account reconciliations, but the Air Center also had a separate general ledger through QuickBooks that I don't believe the external auditor was made aware of. And a lot of those amounts we could not reconcile to the leases, and there's an exhibit, I think it might even be the exhibit right above this one that lays all that out. And let's see here, non-compliance with lease agreements, and then non-compliance with property management plan and minimum standards policy. And those are also within the report detailed out and within the exhibits. And so our recommendation there is just to continue, just have the city to continue to do the appraisals, which is the next finding, and always ensuring they have the lease agreements approved by council, on file, and that all the terms and conditions are met. And let's see, what do we have next? The inventory system. There were insufficient controls over inventory, and so we did take a look at the warehouse. We took a look at general ledger, supplies inventories, and equipment, and we have recommendations within the report here to continue to improve, because it was already in process even during the scope of our engagement, to improve internal controls over inventory. So next, inconsistencies in internal fund transfers and budgetary compliance. And this really comes down to the question that the city had about what is being transferred out of the enterprise funds, water, wastewater, all of that, to the general fund, and what was going from the general fund to the other funds. And so we do schedule that out in detail within the report. And I guess what I would say there is that there wasn't a completely consistent methodology throughout the years, and it did change. And sometimes transfers were made that did not agree to DFA's records and did not agree to the budgetary amount that was originally planned. And we have absence of workflow and project management software. This is another one that we are really encouraging all of our clients to implement. And just operationally, as I mentioned before, things have changed so much with the workforce and turnover. I always joke around about the golden notebooks, but some of us can remember where we would go in to do an audit, and in the finance department or any department you went into, the person had probably been there, I don't know, 10, 15 years, let's say. You go in there and they have all these nice 3-ring binders, color coded with tabs or whatever, and they knew exactly where their reports were. They knew exactly when they were due. They could pull something out and it would be right there. And those days are kind of over. Some places still have them, but now it's really, really important to implement something like Monday.com is what we use, but it could be any number of software systems, project management systems. And really the goal is to ensure that if one employee leaves, another one could come in and, you know, maybe have training videos, but at least be able to see the tasks and the due dates and everything that that position did and all of the projects that are outstanding and everything in one place to where that institutional knowledge is not lost, especially as we know the boomers are retiring more and more. And so that's another area too where that knowledge can sometimes be lost. And if you have the software in place, hopefully that mitigates that risk. And the same thing goes with the internal control processes and procedures being written and updated thoroughly to properly reflect what is occurring or needs to occur within the city's operations. This also allows the city to hold people accountable for their performance. There were minutes sometimes missing or documents missing from the minutes, and so we have some recommendations there as well. To just make that stronger as far as an outside person or an auditor to be able to come in and say, oh, I see this lease here was approved, or at least it's on the agenda. Here's the copy of the lease that was approved by the council. And then of course that should match to the records at the RAC and the records in the general ledger. Everything should, you know, be able to have a complete audit trail. So that's kind of the goal of whoever's keeping track of those records, is to think an outside person coming in completely cold to be able to understand what exactly occurred and what was voted on and the exact documents that were approved. And then there was a lack of supporting documentation for the lodger's tax expenditures. I do want to clarify that we didn't see huge amounts of funds being spent on like unauthorized expenditures. It was more along the lines of lack of supporting documentation. So there were, you know, large journal entries, for example, that there just wasn't the normal, like, here's the journal entry and here's why we're doing it and here's who approved it. So that some of that was missing in our testing. We also recommend, of course, the hotline and making that available, a fraud hotline, making that available to the community and to the city employees, of course. And then also, I think in the finding, it does recommend training, and that employees really do need to be aware that if they can't get answers within by reporting up, sometimes they have to report out. And Auditor Maestas told everyone just earlier, you know, they are excellent at keeping things anonymous from the whistleblowers. And right on their website, they have a little, I think it's a red button now that says to report fraud, really waste or abuse as well, or non-compliance. So any concerns that people have, it's just a great idea to try to address them as promptly as possible, instead of kind of, sometimes things tend to kind of fester for a while or sit for a while, and then it just gets really compounded. And then there were some other risks identified during the consulting procedures that some of them had been reported. I think someone mentioned earlier, Mayor, about the timesheet fraud and how that was reported. And so there are some items in that last finding that are just miscellaneous things that we have to report. So with that, I will stand for any questions.
Okay. Do we have questions?
Mr. President.
Yes, Councilman
I
Carr.
don't have any questions. You know, I, for one, have been going through this document. I don't have it digested yet. Every time I open it and look, even if it's a page I've already looked at, I find something different, something new. I go, oh, some of this I was somewhat aware of. Some of it really came to light, and I appreciate your work and appreciate the state auditor's office getting us to this point. It's been a long time coming, and there is a lot of problems in here, and we've corrected a bunch of them, but we're not done yet. And we're gonna keep working on it until we get a clean slate. As long as I'm here, I'm gonna keep working on it. A lot of people are not happy, but that's the way it is. We've got a culture problem, I think this demonstrates that, within the city of Roswell, and culture is extremely, extremely hard to change. But we're gonna get it done. I've already noticed some changes in people's attitudes with this stuff. We've got a new airport manager. She's really on top of things from my vantage point, and I applaud her. I applaud Chad Cole. The only hanger-oner here is Mike, and I happen to know that during a lot of this stuff, he wasn't included in any of those discussions, were you, Mike? And that, your second command needs to kind of have an idea of what's going on. He didn't have a clue. He and I visited about that early on in my first term, in my present term. And I've known Mike for a long time. He's been around here. Appreciate his diligence and depth. And we've changed a lot of people, and a lot of job positions have changed, and I think we're gonna get there. But we're not done. The hard part may be yet to come, actually. Whenever you look at this, some of it worked pretty easy. People quit, went on, whatever. That makes life easy. Now we're gonna have to take a serious look at some folks that are around and our processes and our procedures. So that's my pledge. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you all for getting this done.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, well, a little bit, Mike is just the tip of the iceberg. I want to thank the employees that we have that are still with us, for staying with us and staying true to the people who they serve. And I want to thank you for that. We had a lot of things, if you can imagine, having cash boxes out at the airport that no one else knew. City Hall didn't know about. There's never anything good that can come from that. And I'm sure there was a reason that you were kept in the dark, Mike. There's a reason. So you are above reproach, and for any fireman in here that knows, they know you've had their back in the past, or in any person, and you would still have it in the future. And so to you and all the staff that we have, for helping us keep this city, our city that's run honestly, openly, and fairly. And so I would like to thank you all for that. To the auditor and Ms. Armio, thank you all for a very good job. I think we've seen the worst that we can see. I don't think the people can rest assured that we will not have any more activities that will happen under the administration we have. And it's like I told every person that's come to work here for us, as long as I'm here, we have a tough job to do. We're gonna do that tough job, and we're gonna do it together. And we're gonna have time to smile when we're through. That smile's important because you have to enjoy your work that you do, and you have to be proud of it. And you can't smile if you're not enjoying it, and if you're not proud of what you do. So to that and all our staff, thank you all very much. And to the people of Roswell, I think the world has turned. It's turned months ago, but we're going down the road, and you don't have to worry about a thing with your money. What we've got to do is we've got to sit down and figure out how to get beyond our flood. And we've got to figure that out. We've had tremendous losses And we can only do that when we're all pulling together. And, I want to thank everybody who wants to see tomorrow or anything else. Like any day since we had that flood, tomorrow's going to be another day, a great day to go outside and see that flood dust blow away. So go out and look. It's going to be the only positive happening tomorrow probably. But we're going to see that flood dust blowing on over to Texas. So. You know, so, and if you want to feel real bad for anybody, feel bad for the Hollifields, because they had places over there on their place that were flat, level ground that are probably 12 or 15 feet deep right now, and it's not so bad for Jay, but for his lovely bride, she's gonna have to get a step ladder to get out. But, you know, to the auditor and our accounting team, thank you all very much, and appreciate you all doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you all, and if you care to move on, I certainly wouldn't blame you, because I know when I was walking in here, the weather chime was going off telling us beware of the wind. So be careful going home if you're going home tonight. If not, enjoy your stay tonight, and just probably leave before the wind gets up. So, but it's supposed to be 80 miles an hour tomorrow, so batten down your hatches. Okay, so.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, Councilman Cannon.
Excuse me, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem. As we move on to the consent agenda items, I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and go ahead and move forward without discussion or debate or presentation on the consent agenda items and vote on them individually as we should.
Second.
Oh, okay. We're gonna this.
Adopt. Well, I can't see what this is, but.
Oh, the special auditing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
apologize for getting
That's
that.
right. We're on there. Councilman Corn, item 22.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move we adopt resolution 2514. It's a resolution of the city of Roswell, New Mexico, accepting the results of the special audit for the city of Roswell and presenting the findings to the public. Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Corn, second by Councilor Marujo. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, if the clerk will call the roll.
Counselor Cortez? Counselor Caplan?
Yes.
Counselor Halverson? Yes. Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Marujo?
Yes.
Counselor Corn?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold? Yes.
By a vote of 8 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, item resolution 25-14 has duly passed the council. So next, okay, now we go back to item,
My motion to suspend the rules for those consent agenda items that are no longer on the consent agenda, but that we move forward without any debate or presentation or discussion on those items and vote on them individually.
I second.
we have a motion by Councilor Cavan, second by Council Lady Halverson, to suspend the rules and vote on these items one at a time and without discussion.
Mr. Mayor, this is a 2/3 vote.
Needs a 2/3 vote on this, okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, if the clerk will call the roll.
Who was the second?
Second was Councilor Lady Halverson.
Thank you. Counselor Cortez?
Aye.
Counselor Cavan?
Yes.
Counselor Halverson?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Marujo?
Yes.
Counselor Corn?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, moving right along to item 3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move we approve purchase order for Simmons Martin Emergency Group in the amount of $215,000 to buy a ladder truck to replace some equipment that was damaged in the flood.
Second.
Okay, motion by Corn, second by Halverson. We have a voice vote, or do you, all those in favor signify by aye?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Item 4,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I approve, asking the city council to approve to ratify a change order PO 22501332 for following emergency water and wastewater repairs due to flood disaster this over Hondo and 4th Street, and you see the list there. It's a lot of money, but it was all caused by the flood. I move its adoption.
okay, we have a motion to Councilor Corn, seconded by Councilor Johnson. Councilor Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous, so it's 8-0. Okay, item 5.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilor
Mayor.
Corn.
I approve, asking the city council to, approve waiving the replacement fees valued at, $1,440.92 for all items borrowed or damaged during the flood last October.
We have a motion by Councilor Corn, second by Councilor Marujo, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay, item 5, Councilor Perez,
Six. I think we're up to
or 6, excuse me, item 6, Councilor Corn.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd like to approve an award for professional services for the Roswell Public Library outdoor play and learning area to Studio 27, the amount of $28,843.63. Second.
We have a motion, is that correct with the numbers right?
38,000.
For 38,000.
38,843.93.
Councilor Corn made the motion, the second by Councilor Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Okay, item 7.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve resolution 2509 weeds adoption and resolution 2504. The resolution shall mandate the cleanup of approximately 6 separate properties within the city.
Second. Motion by Councilor Howardson, second by Councilor Cavan. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0. Okay, item number 8. Councilor Hildebrand, who wants?
He's not here, Mr. Mayor, I'll take it.
Okay, Councilor Corn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2510, condemnations, adopt resolution 2510. The resolution shall require the removal and demolition of one dilapidated structure.
Okay, motion by Councilor Corn, second by Councilor Marujo. All those in favor signify by aye. Say aye. Opposed, like sign? None, okay. Item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Resolution 2511, asking the city council to adopt this resolution. It's a resolution to the New Mexico Department of Transportation for TPF roadway projects. Move its adoption.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Corn, second by Councilor Lady Halverson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By vote of 8, affirmative, none negative, duly passed. Counselor Corn for item 10.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Resolution 2512, approving a budget adjustment for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025. And somewhere in here is the documents that you need. I'm trying to keep this short.
Okay, we have a motion by Counselor Corn, a second by Counselor Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 8-0, council passes. Counselor Corn for item 11.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Request the city council's approval for RFP 25006, its approval of work for RFP 2506 auditing services. Second.
We have a motion by Counselor Corn, seconded by Counselor Marujo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By vote of 8, affirmative, none negatives, duly passed. Item 12.
Mr. Mayor, I vote we approve the minutes from the regular city council meeting on February 13th, 2025.
We have a motion by Counselor Halverson, seconded by Counselor Cortez. Thank you very much.
You can learn to speak up, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, he's.
Well, you took all of them,
A motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By vote of 8, affirmative, none negatives, duly passed.
Do we move to these now?
Jump to 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go to 18. Okay, the approval of the wonderful mayor's recommendations in the ETC of position 1A, Carrillo, position 2, John Gerard, position 3, Mulkirk.
Mayor, I vote we approve what you just said.
Councilor Howard moves the approval of those,
Second.
seconded by Councilor Ford. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By vote of 8, affirmative, none negatives, duly passed. Item 19, approval of Councilor Lady Halverson, approval of the mayor's recommendation of appointments to keep Roswell beautiful. Councilor Lady Halverson.
Mr. Mayor, I vote we approve these positions for the Keep Roswell Beautiful Board, Marie Manny and Joanne Mascarenas.
There was a motion by Councilor Halverson, seconded by Councilor Professor, is that?
Yeah, that was Orpesa.
Okay. Seconded by Councilor Orpesa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By a vote of 8, affirmative, none negatives, duly passed. Next, we have Mayor Jennings' recommendations from the museum board, and their position 2, Timothy Hardwick, renewal. Morgan Breedike is new. Nancy Fleming is new. Katie Hubner is new, and Jose Rivera is new.
Mr. Mayor, I vote to approve everything you just said.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilor Lady Halverson
Second.
to approve, seconded by Councilor Cortez. And he's getting verbal. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Oh, good shot, 8-0, buddy, you're really doing good. All right. Next, we have, we'll go back to item 13. Updates. And this is our famous Bouncing Bobby. Bouncy Bobby. Now, she's been known to do many things. Bouncing is not her forte, but she's really good at it.
Well, evidently not so
So now we know when there's anybody wants to yell at Bobby, we don't have to say I and Y, we just say Bouncing Bobby or Bobby. So, Bouncing Bobby.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members. So good to be with you this evening. Oh, there's one of those words.
Alert us to our cell phones.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Tell me the way it's going.
So I'd first like to start this evening by saying how much I appreciate the audit report As I started working at your airport and was looking through things and finding things that I believe needed worked on. But I certainly found within the pages in the audit report, and I admit I only read a section about the airport, that there was a wonderful to-do list, and we're certainly working our way through it as quickly as we can. There's some very important things in there that need to be corrected and improved upon. And as part of that, one thing I'd like to tell you is, I understand that all of you have tremendous things to take care of. You've got your businesses, your items you need to take care of, but then you also have all the city departments that need your help and need your guidance. And the airport kind of seems like this odd place on the south part of the city that perhaps can be very confusing if you're not familiar with the activities that go on there. And it's been kind of cocooned. Well, those days are over. So we want that airport to be visual to not only the council members, the mayor, the city staff, but certainly the citizens of Roswell. And as part of that, over the next few months, we'll be inviting various key tenants at the airport to come and speak to you so you can understand some of the activities that occur and happen at the airport. And this evening we have with us the Vice President of Finance and the Treasurer for AirFlight, which is a fixed base operator at the airport, and he's going to provide you with a presentation. So I'd like to introduce Garrett Hayne.
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Appreciate the opportunity to present to everyone a little bit about AFLIGHT, a little bit of what we do at the with the airport. We had met with the city manager along with the city attorney. I think it was the fourth quarter or so of last year, maybe even the third quarter, and talked about, how we can get in front of the community and really, share a little bit more of what's going on with the airport and really what we do. So certainly appreciate the opportunity to do that tonight. So AFLIGHT, we're actually celebrating our 30th year this year for AFLIGHT Roswell. We've been here since 2013. And, we're as Bobby mentioned, really one of our big focuses, how do we partner with Bobby and the airport administration and really the local community on improving our services at the airport and making it a win-win situation for everybody. A little bit of our overview, we're headquartered in Ann Arbor, Michigan. That's where we started back in the 90s. We're privately owned. We're the largest privately owned FBO operator in the country. We currently now have 27 locations. Our sister company is AFFuel Corporation, who's one of the largest fuel suppliers in the country for aviation fuel. We have 1,000 team members. As I mentioned, we started in Roswell over a decade ago, and we own and operate FBOs. We do a lot of ground handling for different airlines, whether it's Allegiant or American, where we do the ticketing, the ground handling, and those types of services for the airlines. But primarily, we do focus a lot on obviously the general aviation and providing those services. I mean, just like if you flew in at a airport on a commercial airline, we support the general aviation, and you would fly into our terminal, and we have hangars over at the airport along with a terminal where we provide fuel and all kinds of different services for the general aviation community. We operate over 100 refueler trucks. We have 1,000 GSE equipment. We have over 200 million square feet of office and hangar space throughout our network. We've really focused on development the last 6 or 7 years, so we've developed a lot of different hangars and FBOs in different markets. We're really, not only are we're a growing company, not only do we grow into, which I'll talk about on the next slide, but growing our business in different markets, we're also growing the airports that we're at. So we're doing a lot of development. Currently, we have a development going on at Detroit City, near our headquarters, and up in Traverse City, Michigan. So this is our map of all the locations we have throughout the country. As you can see, we're as far west as Mesa, Arizona at FFC. We recently purchased a business in Ogden, Utah back in December. So, you know, we're up in Canada, we've got a couple overseas in Belfast and I guess we have two overseas and one in Canada, and the rest are all domestic, all in the US. So we do a lot of, as I mentioned, we do a lot of ground handling where we don't actually have FBO services throughout the country, so which are, you know, our primarily our customers are Allegiant and American at those locations. So if you want to, yeah, so this is our leadership team. C.R. Sincock is one of the owners. There's C.R. Sincock and his father, Craig Sincock, purchased FBO 50 years ago. They celebrated their 50 years last year, and we're celebrating our 30 years at Athlete this year. Joe Mazzaros is the VP of Operations, and of course I'm the VP of Finance. Aaron Maurer, who Bobby knows really well, he's our regional manager and he oversees this market. He is probably our largest aviation enthusiast in the company and extremely focused on operations of our business. So we've got Chris Larison on the right there, heads up our safety standards and training. Matt Gila is our customer service experienced professional, and we're also in the cargo business as well as ground handling, which I talked to you about. So a pretty diverse team of experience there. We've got, you know, Joe's been with the company over 25 years. I've been with the company for over 10, and I feel like I'm one of the newbies still with some of the length and tenure of our management team. Aaron's been with the company for over 20 years. So, and this is our safety standards and training, and quite honestly, this is our number one focus in the company. You know, working in aviation, safety is number one, right? So. These are some of the finest people in the organization. Chris Larison, who leads this team, who I just mentioned, has over 25 years of aviation experience. Our core values, this is really what we hire and fire people with our core values. And we talked about safety champion, which is absolutely critical. Airport industrial ally is all, you know, very important. I mean, for us, every airport's different. It's working with that airport manager and working with the airport administration and really trying to figure out what is needed at that airport. And really, we have many different services, and a lot of them are, you know, very similar throughout the company, but we also have to tailor toward that specific market. Goal and strategy buster, you know, we are very goal focused. You know, we have strategic plans for every single one of our FBOs, including here. Obviously, we've got the races coming up, which are a huge focus of ours, and partnering with Bobby and the airport to make all that happen. You know, we've done a lot of different special events, whether it's military, whether it's, you know, large sporting events, whether it's political events, whatever it might be. But, you know, we have all the resources throughout our network to bring them to Roswell when we run into those types of situations where we need extra people. Positive culture promoter. I think the mayor mentioned that about, you know, having a smile on your face at the end. Certainly we promote it through our leadership team and really creating that environment. Next one is the Platinum Experience Provider. You know, when you're coming into Roswell, you know, on a general aviation aircraft, the first place you're going to see is our FBO. So we understand the importance of being at the front door of the community and really providing excellent customer service, so they want to come back here. And, you know, we want to make sure they have a great first impression of coming in here, and great customer experience is critical for us. And then, of course, integrity, honest efforts. You know, we're a big believer that, you know, you've got to have honest people that work for you, and you've got to be able to look, every company is gonna make mistakes. There's always gonna be issues, but if you don't bring them up and you let them settle, way down here, don't bring them up and fix them, it's never, those are the, I feel like, are the most successful companies that elevate the issues, figure it out, and move on and get better. These are several of our services. I mentioned many of them. We do all the fueling at the airport. We fuel the commercial airlines as well. We do a lot of military. We do, not necessarily here as much, but we do a lot of de-icing. We have GSE maintenance, inventory control, security, environment. We do cargo. We do, as I mentioned, we do the ticketing for a lot of airlines. We do below wing operations where we're handling the bags, for the airlines. So a lot of different things that we do, and quite honestly, that's probably not even quite a full list there, but it's really tailoring to the airports and the needs of the airport. Some of the local support, we do defuel and refueling of Dean Baldwin over at the airport. And many of the MROs, the air ambulance and med flights, Generation Jets, Transzero, and Air Methods are our tenants. We also, support the tankers for the fires, and we brought in a large fuel truck. Spent significant capital on that to support that business at the airport. As far as the races, we've been very involved with this, and we're continuing to get more involved as this comes up. We've been working on this for several months, been partnering again with Bobby on the races. We're going to bring in extra staff needed throughout our network for this event. We've got extra trucks coming in. We got extra equipment, so we're really working and preparing ourselves to handle the operations just like we would, anywhere else on special events. We have the capacity, we've got the equipment to bring to Roswell to support it. As far as some of the marketing, we're already, we've got a campaign scheduled to bring awareness to the race. So we've done certainly some marketing on our website in order to continue to promote it. So I think the next slide is a kind of a time frame of our marketing strategy. We've started on some social media. We've also started taking reservations and banners and links to the Air Race website, Apple Maps showcase. We've got a pop-up banner in the FBO lobby. We're going to be sending out an email blast later on in May. We want to do a press release, with a statement from the mayor, as the races get closer. We have a huge connection to the aviation community through both AF-Flight and AF-Fuel. As I mentioned, we're at 27 locations. AF-Fuel alone supplies fuel to over 650 airports throughout the country. So we have a lot of connections and able to broadcast that out and really do a great job marketing it. So we're really looking forward to it. The OEM support, the original equipment manufacturer is huge here in Roswell. I mean, we the airport's set up perfectly for it with the long runways, but the key too is also making sure that we are able to provide great service. And have the space to accommodate them. Supporting them allows for faster development times, community and city resources. We really have an understanding. We've been through this quite a bit, and what they need. The Navy's actually out at the airport. They started early February, I believe.
Yes.
So we're supporting their testing out there. And, it's a competitive market. I mean, these things don't just pop up at your airport. You've got to be able to produce, you've got to be able to support them, you've got to be able to provide the customer service to keep this business coming back. So, we're very proud and very excited that we're able to keep this business in Roswell. So these are some of the companies. Obviously, you've got Boeing that comes there, Airbus, Gulfstream, Cessna, Honda Jet. So, you know, again, I talked about the long runway. They really, obviously is essential for their training. But it, you know, it's also great for the community. They took, let's see, Boeing's last visit, yeah, they took 58,000 gallons of fuel, had 2,100 nights at the local hotels for their personnel. So it's not just the airport, it's reaching beyond the airport into the community that really adds value. Here's, I talked a little bit about the military, but you know, the Navy's there now. But you know, I think when we came on back in 13, it was a bit of a struggle to get the Navy comfortable coming to Roswell. And you know, we really have good connections with the military and able to help. But I think the big thing with them is, again, it's providing the service they need. And the facilities, you know, that we have, they use the chalet that's, I guess it's about 18,000 square foot hangar, you know, during their visits. We've got over, you know, 1.4 million square feet of ramp, which is, you know, great for their exercises. So, and then we also have a large classroom in the FBO that they use. Furthermore, on the Navy, the last time they took 445,000 gallons, which is pretty significant. Obviously, revenue for the airport as well. They booked over 6,000 hotels, rental cars, restaurants, tours, destinations. So you know, it's really a big driver, and we love that connection. And you know, Aaron Maurer, our regional manager, he's really our military guy in the company, not only, you know, for Roswell, but he oversees Roswell, so he has that great connection with them. Just our employee development, I mean, we're really focused on continuing to develop our employees, you know, through managing, training, summits, professional development, collaboration. Our company is really focused on education and advancement. So we really look at growing our company whenever we have the possibility to do that. So that's kind of a quick synopsis of what we do, and you know, not only in Roswell, but you know, through our whole network throughout the country.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any questions from any of the members of the council?
How many people do you employ in Roswell?
How many do we have, Claudia?
Currently, we have, including CSRs, all team members?
Yeah.
We have 12.
Any further? One thing I would just like to point out is in Roswell, we have had a significant de-icing problem with our airlines and having Americans sitting on the end of the runways for 4 and 5 hours at a time. So I hope that we can figure out how to figure that out on de-icing. And you know, those planes when they come here, if they can't leave here on time when they should, then that gives us another black star, so they can't. They don't want to come back. So we need to work on that a little bit. I know in general aviation, we used to have a very thriving general aviation population here, and fuel costs and some of those things have driven those people to Artesia. But we also have a hangar shortage, and really we used to have two general aviation companies here, and they had plenty of planes for people to learn to fly in, and we've kind of fallen away from that. So when we look at general aviation hangars, the ones we have here are not really in very good shape.
Yeah.
And we need to work on that and expand our general aviation base here in Roswell. So I hope with all the coming of the air races and things, we can sit down and figure out a way to improve general aviation out of here like it used to be. It used to be a thriving business here, and I know when I flew, we had two full service FBOs to go to, and it was a good deal. So I appreciate you coming. I want to thank you, and I know Bobby knows everybody. I'm going to tell you, it doesn't matter if she knows them, but she has certainly been a breath of fresh air when you look at what she's been through and what she's found at our airport. We had a number of audit findings at the airport, and she has certainly done an awful lot about cleaning that place up. I mean, it's the only place in the world that we've had a TSA inspector told to leave the airport. You know, I mean, give me a break. But Brain Trust did that. Of course, he's not here anymore, but, you know, it's, we have a lot of improvements. We've made a lot of our improvements, and I thank you for working with us and working with Bobby. And she's done a really fine job for while she's been here.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and don't take it on the de-ice, and yeah, we would love to be part of conversations on, you know, doing some development out in the airport and seeing the airport grow, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bobby, do you have anything else to bring before us?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. And first of all, I'd like to point out that this is my first report to council as a full-time city employee.
You're here. Welcome, we're glad you're here.
And as we talked in the past, I like to report on the operating revenue. Again, this is revenue that does not include any grants. And for February, our revenue was $1,350,799.71. I don't know if you remember what it's been in the past, but it hasn't even been $500,000. So we are growing. Now, as a result of that, we were able to do some of the deferred maintenance I talked about in the past. So we did do $652,000 in deferred maintenance, but it still ended up with $698,000 to the good.
That's good.
And I'm proud to be part of that team at the airport. If any of you have a crystal ball on what the vote's going to happen tomorrow in that crazy town on the East Coast, to know whether it's going to be a continuing resolution or government's going to stop, I'd like to know, because that will affect and impact grants going forward until they kind of work through all that. So we won't know what grants we'll get this year until they figure that one out. Although we do have grant money that's already been awarded to us, and certainly the states come through again, and we'll be using that money, but we'll have to see what happens in Washington. And then we talk passenger boardings. In January of 24, passenger boardings were 2403. In January of 25, passenger boardings were 4,794. In February of 24, passenger boardings were 2,794. In February of 25, passenger boardings were 4,817. We hope to continue that trend, of course. The aircraft parking, the dry storage, so to speak, at the airport is about 204 aircraft. That number continually goes up and down. It's going to be interesting as Boeing comes on the airport at the end of the month. It starts just on 777s and 737 MAX, and some other things that are going on with the airlines, finance of the airlines. When the airlines are able to buy new aircraft, the inventory at the airport goes up. If they got to keep the old ones running the best they can, it gets kind of flattened out. So we can impact some of that, but certainly not all of that. I will tell you, because it's a question we often get asked, that through the help of Mac Rogers, I would like to be able to run him through our copy machine and make another one of him. We will start the repairs from the flood on the terminal in about a week. We're going to start with the museum so we can get it back open. From there, we'll move to the rest of the public areas, and then we'll do the secure areas after that. So hopefully that'll go along pretty well. The other question I get asked all the time is, why can't I go west and not east to go west? And why do I have to get up at 6 to spend 3 hours in Dallas? We're working on that. One of the things we've been talking about with our air consultant is the fact that SkyWest, which if you know, SkyWest operates all the American flights coming in and out of here. But they also have what's called a Part 135 air charter operation, So we're talking about that for some specialized service, especially to get some of the people that have annually attended the races. So it'd be an on-demand charter. They use the same type aircraft that American's using there today, only it's only 30 seats. But it'd be at the time and the place that we want it to be, it would be a direct flight. So we could pick up the Reno staff, we could pick up the fans from Reno, we could go to Southern California, pick up a lot of fans there on these demand charters, and we can get them then to the races. And of course, when you have extra carriers coming in like that, it also brings extra revenue to the community, and we want to strive to always do that. So that's my portion of the report, and I'll turn it over to the chairman of the AAC, Mr. Bud Gumbel.
Were you groaning?
I didn't, I thought I was trying to help you out.
Well, I always appreciate your courtesy. Thank you. First off, I want to thank AvFlight for your presentation. It's good to have you significantly more involved than what you've been in the past. So keep up the good work. Thank you. So good evening, Mayor Jennings and Roswell City Councilors. The AAC had our March meeting on Tuesday, March the 11th. We again had a few Air Center tenants in attendance. Dr. Sean Powell provided a brief overview of information about Eastern New Mexico University Roswell. That information will be expanded upon at a future meeting, probably this next month. The commission received updates and new information on 13 different projects at the Air Center, and I'll address several of these projects for you this evening. So this will be the fun part of your entire evening. So the ADB lighting project continues on a monthly basis to improve runway lighting around the Air Center. The new electrical vault, which controls the lighting, is to have design work finished this month. The vault is scheduled to be bid out in April and hopefully have construction completed in June. The new vault is designed to improve the reliability of the lighting system at the Air Center. It is replacing two older vaults that have been in use probably even before Bobby Corn was flying out there. The airport master plan is currently under review by the FAA. Hopefully this will be finalized and approved by the end of April. Part of that's also contingent on what happens tomorrow in a vote in DC. The BLM loading pit and the proposed taxiway improvements are now both fully funded. The taxiway improvements was not fully funded until just a couple days ago. However, neither portion of the project will be started until after fire season. This is a change from what we reported to you last month, likely towards the end of July or into early August is when that will start. The most recent hiccup is the foundry that makes the cast iron inlet or grate cannot make that grate until the end of April. This inlet provides a path for slurry that is contained while loading the aircraft to go into a holding tank to be subsequently disposed of. None of this sounded exactly copacetic when we were being told about this, so I contacted the Pecos Fire District BLM supervisor to get additional information on this issue. It was surprising to me that we've got tankers that take slurry and they dump it all over trees and forests and dirt and everything else, and that's okay. But if we lose a little bit out of a hose that's going into the tank in the aircraft and it gets on the ground, we've got to dispose of it. And then to have a specially cast iron grate that this goes through to go into the holding tank just didn't make sense at all. Having said that, everybody that I spoke to said, well, those are the FAA rules. And that's what we have to deal with. So I'm not sure that even Bobby, who can fix almost anything, has enough stroke to move forward on that. Having said all of that, both the taxiway redevelopment and the loading pit improvements will certainly improve loading times on the aircraft. Lochner Engineering expects a 120-day construction period once the construction can actually begin. The apron rehab in front of the terminal building has been given a notice to proceed. Design will be completed in April. Construction is expected to take 90 days. This project will not be problematic for either passenger or aircraft loading or unloading at the terminal. The southeast waterline construction is still in a holding pattern. White Cloud Construction continues working on higher priority projects throughout Roswell due to the problems caused by the flood. This project is not expected to restart for at least another 30 days. Bobby provided the commission information on potential improvements to airport parking that might allow for paid vehicle parking. The commission decided that now is not the time to consider the possibility of paid parking. We did task Bobby to get additional information on the possibility of covered parking at the Air Center. Don Fisher reported on the 300-person contingent from Boeing that will be in Roswell in April and May for brake testing on 2 large aircraft. Avflight just mentioned that. There's a plan in place for security badging for this large group that will be at the Air Center. This will follow the U.S. Navy aircraft pilot training that is currently ongoing at the Air Center, and this large group from Boeing will continue the positive impact on hotels and restaurants in Roswell up into the Air Races qualification training that takes place in May. The last project that I'll discuss is the ground floor restroom updating / rehabilitation project. The first restrooms to be updated will be the 2 restrooms in the main lobby area just west of the stairway that goes up to the 2nd floor. The hallway restrooms in between the passenger ticketing areas, counters, and the main lobby area are believed to be adequate to accommodate passenger usage while the 2 large restrooms in the main lobby are being updated. After these restrooms are completed, the restroom at the east end of the terminal adjoining the baggage claim area will be totally renovated and enlarged to accommodate 2 new family accessible restrooms. This restroom rehabilitation project is expected to significantly benefit the traveler's experience in the RAC terminal building. This concludes my report. I stand for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have questions?
I have comments.
Councilor Halverson, Councilor Maru? No, okay.
I thank you, Bud and Bobby, for organizing the monument with all the councilors that were able to come and the mayor. It was a very nice dedication and the monument's out there for the city.
Thanks for mentioning that. If people haven't seen that, it's a beautiful monument. Take you 10 minutes to get out there and get out of your vehicle and go look at it. Pretty impressive, really is. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? The only thing I can remember, there was a young man named McDonald that had gone to St. Peter's, and I thought he died in a construction accident out there. I'm very serious about that. And he wasn't on the list, and so I don't know, it's just something.
It was nice to have actual family members.
Yeah, it was a good deal. real nice deal.
You did run into one of your former classmates from St. Petersburg, didn't you?
Yes.
That you thought was gone too?
Well, I knew he wasn't here.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we got for he's been here for a long time, we have former Counselor Steve Henderson and his lovely bride, and Mr. Smith, for employee support of the Guard. Welcome.
Well, good evening. I'm Gary Smith with Employer Support to the Guard and Reserve. As I think the mayor mentioned, Steve Henderson with me. Everybody here knows Steve. So appreciate them being here. We are here to present a couple of awards. I see they're up there. One's going to Daryl Johnson and the other to Juliana Halverson, two of our illustrious city council people. So anytime I present an award at an event like this, I like to talk a little bit about ESGR. Did you get my PowerPoint? Move past this, we'll go on to the next one. Okay, a lot of people don't really know what ESGR is. So I want to share with those that might not. The first thing I want to emphasize, you see that last little word there, I should have put that in large print. We are volunteers. I heard a lot of talk about money tonight. I think everybody's interested in it. We are an official Department of Defense organization, but we're volunteers. We don't get paid. I don't get paid. Steve doesn't get paid. Our state chairman doesn't get paid. Even our national director doesn't get paid. The organization is run by volunteers. We have very, very small staffs at the federal level and state level. But other than that, all the work done by ESGR is done by volunteers. Established in 1972. And yeah, we log a lot of hours. I won't belabor that. Why were we came about in 72? Up until that time, there was a draft, and we decided to do away with the draft, which had that mandatory military obligation. And Congress felt that employers would not be receptive to their employees volunteering to join the Guard and Reserve. So they felt the need for an organization like this, and that's why we were formed. So why is it so important? Well, that very first thing, over 50% of our military force resides in the reserves. Now, a lot of people here, I know every time I go out anywhere, I have no idea that the National Guard, in addition to the state mission, has a federal mission. I mean, we're all familiar with the state mission. We see it here every time we have an emergency. That is just their state mission. Our guardsmen are trained for a federal mission, and they respond at wartime, and then periodically, they have to leave their jobs even during times like now, which isn't necessarily wartime. And that's going to be a big reality here in Roswell, because later on this year, one of our local units, the 515th Combat Support Battalion, is going to be deployed. And all the members of that unit, and there's quite a few of them here in Roswell and throughout southeastern New Mexico, they're going to be on active duty for a year. And when they get done, they want their job back. And we hope that the employers will welcome them, because they are protected by the law. So we also, in addition to that unit, the unit in Las Cruces and Alamogordo is likewise being deployed at that time. Some of the people that live here are members of that unit also. So it's a reality. We can go on to that next slide. Our mission, can sum it up with what's sort of highlighted there. We want a cooperative attitude between the employer and the guardsmen and reservists. When I go out and brief the guardsmen, which we do that, normally annually, and then we also occasionally get the chance to talk to the employers. I tell them it's a two-way street. If the employer is fair with the employee and the employee treats his boss fair, lets them know when they're gonna go to their meetings, let them know what's coming up, then chances are we're not gonna have problems. And then many times we have some great employers out there, and we encourage our guardsmen and reservists to recognize them. And of course, I, as a committee chair, get the opportunity to present an award occasionally too. And that's what we're gonna do here in just a little while. The law that we're talking about, USERRA, big long word, it's complicated. And so we do instruct our guardsmen and the employers on this law. And we do have people in place that when there is a violation, they prosecute them. And believe me, many employers who fail to comply with the law nationwide, were prosecuted because of that. So there is teeth into this law. If a person is in the Guard Reserve, the employer must, under the law, release them for their training, for deployment, and they must give them their job back and all the benefits they had before they left. If not, they violate the law and they can be prosecuted. Okay, so I'll move on to the next one. I think we'll get done here. So these are just some of the things that we do. We have events. We just had a meeting here a month ago. Several people here attended that meeting. It was a great meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for the presentation that you made there to our local Guardiana. We normally do a luncheon or event like that at least once a year. Last year, I think we had a boss lift. Boss lift is when we bring in the aviation assets of the Guard and they give employers helicopter rides. I think we may have one of those later on this year. We're hoping to make that happen. So, and then finally, the award thing. I go all over state of New Mexico presenting awards. And tonight, I've got the privilege to present awards to two folks that I've known for a long time. I will start first with, Daryl Johnson. Daryl, we got two categories of awards here. I'm recognizing Daryl because he's an employer. I've known Daryl for, I guess, 40 years there, give or take. Daryl used to work for me many years ago. And I always knew Daryl would move on to bigger and greater things. Well, he sure did. He manages the local office out here. Many of his employers over the years have been guardsmen and reservists. And we've never had a bit of problem with them over those many years. So Daryl, for that, we got the 7 Seals Award to recognize your company and you for what you've done for our guardsmen and reservists. We get a picture, we have to have a photo. Well, no, he doesn't. Get that, Carol? Okay.
Thanks so much, Steve. Can we get one for the newspaper?
Yeah, we gotta have the press.
Thank you.
And we got another coming up yet, so don't leave, please.
No.
Now, the other one, I also can occasionally recognize one of my volunteers. Juliana Howerson just happens to be a volunteer. When she's not working, and she does work real hard, Juliana does a tremendous amount of volunteer work. I mean, all of you know that. In fact, I refer to Juliana as Miss Volunteer. And so years ago, I invited her to join our committee. I didn't think she'd say yes. She did, because I knew she was already busy. Juliana, probably the biggest thing she's done with us is, we all know her forte on taking pictures and PR work. And she has done that for us. And that is very, very important to us. And so, like I say, I occasionally get a chance to nominate somebody for an award. And this time it was my pleasure to nominate you, Juliana. So if you please come forward. Yeah, let's get a photo up on that. Now, the flowers are from their dad and sister. They had to leave, but I invited them to come to see Juliana get this award. And we appreciate you.
Thank you for everything. I'm honored because my dad got sent to.
Yes, yeah, now you're like your dad. Your dad got one several years ago. Now you've got one your own. Well, once again, I want to thank Mr. Mayor for the opportunity. When I came down to the office the other day, I walked up to the case, I guess you could have there. I saw an award there, an above and beyond award. I said, I didn't present that one. So that one had to have been done, probably 20 years or so ago. Probably, Steve, you probably had something to do with that. Probably. At one time, Steve chaired this organization. Steve's been in a couple years longer than I have. But we have done many, many awards for the city. I've been, I think this is probably the third or fourth city council meeting I've come to. The police department has gotten many awards over the years, the fire department, and the city itself. So, you're not getting any awards tonight, you already got one years ago. But thank you very much for the opportunity to do this tonight.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I might point out one thing, when I was over in Lubbock and Officer Cavan was shot, and when I went over to see him in the hospital, I saw him going down to the waiting room before he went into surgery and everything, and the first thing, he says was, "Oh, hi, Mayor, how are you?" And it was kind of that. And the next thing, I was waiting for him for his service, and when he went in to have his surgery, his wife came back into the waiting room. We sat down together, and I said, "Well, how was he doing?" She said, the thing he asked about more than anything else is he was hoping that the shot that he received did not hinder his ability to go with the National Guard for deployment this year. Where they're going, Somalia, or?
They'll be over in the Middle East.
In the Middle East, and that's where they were going. But I turn around and I look, because if you look at a man's dedication to his service, city and community with as a policeman, and then to serve his country, and that was what was coming out of him. He sure hoped that his wound in his leg didn't cause him to miss his deployment to the Guard. That's the kind of people that are out there in the Guard, and you just don't find that level of dedication in people. And but Officer Cavan, he sure as hell had it, and it was really, it really made you feel good about when you go to the Guard, you go and you see all these guys, and just remember that everybody who was here in town training for Swiftwater training on October the 19th. They just completed their training from what they recognized they needed to learn in Rio Dosa. They were already down here in Roswell, picked up the training, and we damn sure put them to use. So, anybody who has a Guard member is employed, they're lucky to have them. And, thank you all, you two, for supporting that, and thank you all very much. And these two, they're not too bad. They're all. We all get it. It's fun. It's really nice having them as council members and know how much they support our own troops and our own community. Okay, moving right along. Employee out-of-state travel, page 67. There are a number of people, city firemen and policemen, going to different trainings. One, Mr. Fuller, I believe, is going to the National Academy, Fire Academy. That's a good award there, and to be able to go there, and the bleacher, everybody's going to different trainings. So on page 67 there, item 16. Okay. Mr. Martinez, would you care to enlighten us of what we need to do on this? Are you in good shape?
We're in good shape. The report stands as, it's in your packet.
Yes, Council Lady Halverson.
I just want to congratulate Mr. Fuller for the classes. How many people applied and how many need to go? Sorry, throwing you on the spot.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, not very often is my voice almost leaving me, but it is, so this is a little bit easier. So yeah, National Fire Academy has an executive fire officer program, and they only accept 500 applications every year. And of the 500 applications, I think this last cohort is about 80 of us got in. So it's a huge honor. I got an email this week. They're still planning to have my cohort start in June. That's the plan. They're expecting the FEMA and all the money to be figured out and be justified. So the plan is to still go until we hear further from FEMA as a whole. But National Fire Academy is expected to be up and running hopefully within the next month. So
Congratulations.
thank you so much.
If anybody doesn't know the Fullers, they've been volunteer firemen forever in Midway, and their father, grandfather, the whole family are volunteers, and they've done that, and it's certainly an honor to have him go. And we're glad for their continued service and glad he's in our Roswell department. Thank you all. Okay, next we have public participation items. We had on Miss Sarah MacArthur. Are you, Sarah? There she is.
I stuck it out.
Please put your name, tell them your name and address, and so it would be for the record. And
Hi. Hello, Mayor and Mayor Pro Temp and City Council members. Thanks for letting me sit here for 2.5 hours. I appreciate it. I learned a lot of stuff tonight. I actually was going to say my great-grandfather is the reason that they have that USERA, just because he sued as a doughboy when he came back in New York City. And so he's the reason that servicemen have the right to go back to their employment. So I'm kind of proud of that. So that was what I came to talk about, though. What I came to talk about was 2 things. The first thing is, thank you. Thank you so much. The museum has been a part of my life for the last 16 years. Ever since my son told me to get out of the house, I was boring. And I started going to the museum and learning pottery. But, you know, it was a really devastating experience to have the museum destroyed. And all I would ask the city council is that you involve the people that are part of that museum in the future of it. Don't just not include them in terms of whatever the decision is going to be, whether it stays there or whether it goes somewhere else. I personally don't care one way or the other. I just want the museum to be opened again. And I know it's going to take a lot of money, but a lot of the people there are going to, that are members of the museum, will help you get that money and do whatever we can to make our museum something really important, because it is a huge, important part of our community. So that said, I'm putting my other hat on, and my other hat is that this is my last month as the chair of the Democratic Party, because I'm not running for re-election. So I'm here to tell everybody that's watching and anybody that still cares here that we have elections on the 29th at the Bondurant Room at the Roswell Public Library from 1 to 3. You must be a 30-day registered Democrat. And it is important for us, especially in the climate of today, for us to have more than one political party. Because when only one political party is making decisions, they tend to ignore the other people and the rest of the people. And it's important, especially now in this climate, that people participate fully in something that they're automatically enrolled in because they're a registered Democrat. So those are the things I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
Where would your election be held?
The Bondurant Room, the Roswell Public Library, from 1 to 3, light refreshments and beverages. And anybody that's registered as a Democrat can come and become a central committee, or a county central committee member and vote and elect the people that will be the chair, the vice chair, and members of the state central committee. Okay?
Date was what?
I'm sorry, March 29th, it's a Saturday.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Bob,
thanks.
okay.
Did you have a question? I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Okay, next, Tori Hornick? Oh, she's gone. Okay. Okay, Molly left. Molly? Oh, Molly. Okay, so moving right along. Next, we have a public hearing for ordinance 25-01.
I'll take that.
Counselor Corn, to make a motion on,
I have a quick question for the learned attorney. Are we going to advertise this?
This was advertised last month.
So we're just going to hold a public hearing. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I move we hold a public hearing to consider amendments to ordinance 2501, amending the municipal campaign finance agreement.
Second.
okay, we have a motion by Counselor Corn, seconded by Counselor Cavan, to hold a public hearing on ordinance 25-01. All of you, do we like to vote on that, or do we need to vote?
Well, if anybody here wants to talk about it.
Is there anyone, would you tell them maybe what exactly go through the ordinance, Mr. Eichmann, and then then they'll know if they want to talk or not.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this came from Councilor Hildebrand's request. It's tightening up some of the definitions that are found in the code. It does not change any of the reporting requirements for the campaign codes. So, most importantly, a candidate is would no longer be defined as somebody seeking election, which we found could potentially be squishy. In lieu, it would mean somebody who has filed to run, or somebody who's accepted or spent more than $500 to advance a candidacy for a municipal election. So a concrete figure there. The political committees are now excluding groups that spend less than $200. So again, if you're spending less than $200, I don't really think it's all that important that we file anything with the city. We change the applicability of the ordinance from purpose to intentionality. That just tracks language that's more aligned with standard law, legal terms. This was already excluded, but we in particular articulate more fully that this does not apply to issue-only expenditures or contributions. So by way of example, somebody advocating for the defeat of a particular candidate would be subject to it. Somebody saying generically, vote for people who like zoning to look different, that wouldn't be. And that partly is the result of how federal jurisprudence has worked on the First Amendment. Issue-only things are regulated differently federally, and so we're just sort of tracking that. Otherwise, I think the ordinance is pretty much unchanged. For you guys, it doesn't, or for most candidates, it won't change anything. Like, it's just tightening things up.
Okay, thank you. Now, do we have to vote on having a public hearing, or do we vote afterward?
This is the public hearing.
This is the public hearing, okay, so is there any one of the counselors have any questions? Is there anyone in the audience who would care to speak in for or against, or any way, shape, or form about this public hearing for municipal code campaign finance code amendment? Seeing none, then we have on a motion, which is just for public hearing. Do we vote now on the bill? So that makes it final. Okay. So we have a motion by Counselor Corn. And second by Counselor Cavan. I would remind you, it takes takes at least 6 members of the board to vote for this. If the clerk would call the roll.
Counselor Cortez?
Aye.
Counselor Cavan?
Yes.
Counselor Halverson?
Yes.
Counselor Oropesa?
Yes.
Counselor Johnson?
Yes.
Counselor Marujo?
Yes.
Counselor Corn?
Yes.
Counselor Arnold?
Yes.
By a vote of 8 in the affirmative, none in the negative, item, resolution, 2025-01 is duly passed. Okay, and I believe that almost gets us getting pretty close. Next week, we have the appeal hearing, so now we can go to item 23 on the calendar, which is the city manager report announcements.
Yes, sir, Mayor Jennings and members of the council, the report stands as is. Any questions I can answer, I'll certainly do my best.
Anyone have any questions of Mr. Cole concerning our report, this report? Seeing none, being that we're getting somewhat close to the end of the meeting, I did have an alert today because of the tremendous amount of dust in the air and everything. There is a rest stop at 1719 Southeast Main that will alleviate any dryness or any sand you have in your throat. And it's just right down here at Southeast Main, it's 1719 Southeast Main. I've been there a few times, and it's quite a place. It does really good on removing sand from your palate and anywhere else it might be. And it's real close. It's very safe. Be a good place to go if anybody would care to go there. I'm sure they will give you. They will have many alerts for any future sandstorms that are coming up tonight, and anything that you might have to run into. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.